This is Fox News.
Here at APL, our core values give the company its heart and soul. Whether it's connecting your business with our global network through our newly enhanced service or investing our efforts into giving back to the community, APL is committed to serving you. We humbly honor the opportunity to find innovative solutions for you and your business. To learn more about our enhanced service, call 588-4651 or visit www.apl.com/Guam for more details.
There's a reason every day a Guam homeowner is getting a solar system installed by Micronesia Renewable Energy. It's because MRE is the most trusted name in solar. With more solar energy solutions than any other solar company on island, homeowners have a choice to go solar for zero money down or take the path to ownership. Whichever way, it keeps our skies blue and your pockets green. And with the most experienced solar technicians and an energy production guarantee, there are no worries. Call 632-2613 for a free consultation. MRE, the smarter choice.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to Tall Tales for Tuesday, March 5th. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie. He is on his way back to Guam right now. He's in the air. And so he will be back in this chair tomorrow afternoon. Thanks for tuning in this afternoon. I'll be with you until 6 o'clock. And if you've got something on your mind, by all means, give me a jingle here at 888-8255. And I'd love to hear what you have to say, what you're thinking about this afternoon. It's a beautiful afternoon outside. And I've been here for about, 5 weeks? Thereabouts. And if there was ever a time that you wanted to talk back to me, you can. Today's the day. So 888-8255, or you can find me on Facebook Live here at The Point. And let me know what's on your mind. I ran into a couple of friends today who told me that they were tuned in. They've been thinking about what I've been saying on the air, and they're just fine with it. But you may not be. And if so, by all means, you can challenge my perspective on any of these items, any of these topics, and it will help everyone else who's listening to understand the topic better, wouldn't it? So 888-8255 is our telephone number here at the station. I didn't bring in a Second Amendment article today, and as I'd mentioned at the very beginning, taking over for Bob Klitzkie while he was on vacation, I was going to apply for a gun permit, but I didn't get around to it. It's $145, and keep that in mind when you hear some of the news on the changes of the procedures that are advancing in various states, whether they are rolling back the barriers or the impediments or the what do they call those things you have to leap over, well, the conditions of gun ownership, are they rolling them back or are they adding on? And so for Guam, the cost of the review that the Guam Police Department will conduct on you is $145, and it includes the fee that's paid for doing the federal check. So, the way I understand it, there is more of a restriction here than there are in most places in the United States. But I'll have to bring that story forward at another time, maybe during Bob's show when Bob is here. But we can just go right into Zami Katni. And so we've got Guam Daily Post editorial is about volunteers help the island become a better place. And the Pacific Daily News is saying don't ignore whale deaths. And both of these are of local importance. And let's go ahead and take a look at them and we'll draw them out. Starting with the whales. Strandings should prompt us to ask Navy for more information about sonar, is the subtitle of today's editorial in the Pacific Daily News on page 16. 6 whales washing ashore over the course of 12 years might not seem like cause for alarm, but recent research indicates a correlation between beaked whale deaths and sonar tests should prompt us to ask more questions. A January study from Spain found that beaked whales stranded after naval sonar exercises showed signs of decompression sickness. The sickness occurs as whales attempt to flee the source of noise and swim to the surface too quickly, causing gas bubbles to form in their bodies. Prior to 2007, there had been 1 beaked whale stranding in Micronesia, in the Marshalls in 1975. Since 2007, there have been 6, with 4 occurring shortly after known Navy operations. Brent Tibbetts of the Guam Department of Agriculture said there is very little known about beaked whales, and it isn't always possible to know if strandings are caused by sonar. I'm going to just okay, I'm just noting something down. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to get better answers. While the numbers of dead whales seem far from overwhelming, we only know about the whales that landed on our shores. Our island is a very small strip of land and a very large ocean, and we don't know how many whales or other sea creatures might have died without reaching the shore. As Tibbetts said, quote, if whales are dying, something else is going on in the environment beyond what we see and experience. And that is precisely why we need to know more. The history of our environment is filled with situations that we didn't understand or didn't seem significant at the time, so we didn't take action. We've moved animals and plants across the world without regard to consequences, leading to introduced species like the brown tree snake and the rhinoceros beetle. We've inadvertently created situations like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch between Hawaii and California. We've developed toxins to control pests and weeds, and later learned those products had devastating impacts beyond what we imagined. After numerous beaked whale strandings, Spain banned sonar use in the Canary Islands. No strandings have been reported there since. It isn't proof, but it is reason to press to more answers. I'm somewhat shocked at this. Because, let's see, the first paragraph says, ask more questions. And then in the third paragraph it says, shortly after known Navy operations. And then 2 more paragraphs down, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to get better answers. And then 2 more paragraphs down, and that is precisely why we need to know more. And then it finishes, it isn't proof, but it is reason to press to more answers. At some point, you have to be confident in what you know. And you have to use science and observations from other places. One of the reasons that the strandings in the Marianas is so significant is because there's so little prior research done here on the numbers and frequency of whales in our ocean. There's been research on subsea surface seabed mining. There have been soundings for the depth of the crack in the crust known as the Marianas Trench. There have been samples of sea life taken from not only the depths, but also from seamounts and places where there are plumes of gases being emitted from the earth that are sustaining forms of life that are anaerobic. They don't depend on oxygen the same and carbon the same way that all the other animals in the world do. It's almost like conditions that would exist in space. There's been research on that, but who's done research on whales? And it's not necessarily that we have to do it, but if the research has been done in other places and we are now seeing that there are whales here, then it's not a matter of getting answers. Because right now is a comment period on the proposed permitting of certain types of military exercises and training and use of explosives and sonar, next generation sonar, long distance sonar. But the only people who are going to really understand that, because they're asking for our comment, they're not asking for our questions. If we've got questions, then we haven't done our homework. And for the newspaper to encourage the asking of questions aims the public at a spot that is just short of engaging the process. Why it is that the same process for applying for a permit would involve an announcement locally to see who is interested in something like this, when locally we have to reach out to environmental groups that are 8,000 miles away. And maybe they're more concerned with what's going on 8,000 miles in the other direction than they are 8,000 miles out here, because as far as they're concerned, this isn't part of the United States. You know, it's the same old ignorance, right? Lots of studies, lots of environmental interest and studies about the impact of military activities, training activities, and military wartime type activities, trainings and exercises in other waters. But unless we have the confidence to use that information in a logical, rational, dispassionate manner to challenge the assertions that are found in a deep read of what is being proposed out here, we, the people of Guam, are going to be cited as having allowed our environment to be affected by the proposed uses of our surrounding waters. That is supposed to be in this editorial. As long as you're going to bring it up, don't throw the dart so that it's going to hit the floor right short of the wall. At least hit the board. Gee. Volunteers help the island become a better place. Well, I thought it was already a good place as it was. It's people that, misbehaving and, disrespecting and whatnot that kind of that give us all, heartburn. Anyway, the Guam Daily Post editorial for today reads, "We want to take a moment to thank those in the community who use part of their precious time to make the island a better place. Over the weekend, GTA's Team Up for Good and its community partners helped clean up one of Guam's few northern beach parks, Tangisan Beach. The beach and the adjacent smaller beaches and coves are beautiful, especially now that the nearby power plant has been mothballed. Yet, despite its beauty, Tangisan and its nearby smaller beaches often are marred by the uncaring ways of some beachgoers. Beer and soda cans are left on the beach. Broken beverage bottles, rotting food containers, old tires, and even disposable diapers litter the beach and the nearby jungle. Without the numerous cleanup efforts by volunteers, particularly during the island-wide coastal cleanup, our beaches would be worse. If we go online and look at some of the reviews of Guam beaches on travel websites, there are many who think Guam's beaches are beautiful, but they add a but. This place is covered in trash. Stay away from this dump. It's absolutely disgusting, said one reviewer of Tangisan Beach on TripAdvisor.com. Another commenter posted, also on TripAdvisor.com, quote, beautiful beach, ugly park, overgrown vegetation, trash, and squatters. At Thousand Steps in Mangilau, the beginning of the walk down to the beautiful blue ocean below, also has been marred recently by the sight of a pile of construction materials, paint buckets and debris from what looked like a house demolition job, waiting for volunteers to clean up or for the village mayor's office to take action. Guam has a lot of civic-minded volunteers who do their part in helping the island get caught up in cleaning after those who keep trashing parts of our community. We hope that one day the illegal trash dumping will diminish with real efforts to enforce laws and hold those responsible accountable. Another way to volunteer is to help plant trees, as was shown by volunteers who took time Saturday to plant trees donated by the Department of Agriculture to the Guam Animals in Need facility. Volunteering isn't easy. Who wants to wake up before sunrise on a Saturday after a long week of waking up early for school, work, or family obligations? Yet many of Guam's residents share their time and abilities in ways that seem small to them, but collectively have a big impact on our community as a whole. The beaches are a little cleaner, even for a moment, and the thousands of trees planted by our students and our neighbors help us breathe better and keep soil from ruining our beaches. Thanks in part to volunteers, we have an island community that feels just a little more like home. Thank you to all of those who volunteer, and let's keep on volunteering. I have to agree completely. I've been volunteering since I was in high school, one thing or another. In fact, I've got a gig going that I've been a volunteer continuously on Sunday nights. Well, I was with K57, and then I went to public radio, and that's when I became a full-on volunteer again. I was a volunteer back in the early 80s on radio in Baltimore. But I've been on since 94. So how many years is that? 25 years? As a volunteer. Full-on volunteer on radio. And I do go out and clean up other areas when I've got time. I'll stop and pick something up and toss it in the back. If I'm driving my truck and I see something on the side of the road, I'll stop, pick it up, and throw it in my truck and go toss it in a pile of like stuff that's ready to be disposed of. And Tangisan Beach was one that I'm familiar with from the time I was in elementary school, because I grew up in the housing area that was closest to it. That existed back in the 60s. And I agree, it's beautiful. Our island is very beautiful. But for people who don't dispose of their refuse properly, and sometimes it's because there isn't a dumpster there, because we don't have a trash service at these public beaches where we can expect people to put their trash. And yeah, I know, people are gonna bring their trash down there and dispose of it from their house. And then there'll just be a big pile. And they'll avoid having to take their, put the trash on the curb, pay the fee, monthly fee, $30, whatever it is. I know. But at some point, these public beaches, where it's public access, and people, they think of this. I want to go to a park. I want to go to the beach. I want to enjoy our public facilities. And they go and they can't really fully enjoy it. George Flores is on. He says, really? Or not really. He says, really. It doesn't have a question mark, just really. Got a caller on line 1. What's on your mind? Caller on line 1, welcome to Tall Tales.
You instigated me to call.
Hey, that's my job.
The dumping of trash on the beaches. The people that are dumping the trash in the beaches are the beachgoers themselves, right? Do you agree, right?
Yes.
Okay. We ought to mirror, if only our leaders have enough guts and enough imagination, we ought to mirror how do they do it in the parks in the mainland. You know how they do it, right? There is in every park in the mainland, there is a gate where the beachgoers have to go through the gate first, and there'll be a gate guard, and they have to pay a fee to enter the park. Okay, and they use that fee that they generate through people entering the gate to go to the park. They use that fee to hire people to maintain the park, keep it clean, take the trash and put it, that's put in by the beachgoers. That the beachgoers put their trash into the dumpsters, and then the park maintenance people will take the dumpster and take it to the landfill. And that's how those employees for the park could be paid from the fee of the people going to the park. They could do that at Ipoh, they could do that at Tangisan Beach, but our leaders just don't have that kind of imagination.
No.
They're going to complain that people are going to be taxed. That's different. We don't have to tax the people. The user fee is what we call this. The users of the park is what's going to be paying for the employees that are going to be cleaning the park, especially the bathrooms of the park. The users will be paying for those employees that clean the bathrooms, clean the park, keep the park clean, and even bush cut the grass that's overgrowing, and clean the parking lots. Everything will be paid by the users of the park that they pay to enter the park. That's how they do it in the mainland. Why in the hell can't we do it here? And the reason is we just don't have enough leaders that have enough brains to think about that. Do you agree with what I just said?
Well, I do to a point. I think that already we have a lot of Government of Guam employees. We also have people who are already on obligations to the government. They owe the government something, or they're on restitution. They're on. They have community service, by the court. And what is needed is actually some kind of a park management plan, and then you can have this where you already have people who are employed who are going to receive these. I wouldn't call them volunteers, but these are people who are required to provide the community with some form of service. And it might even be the community service of that they're trying to get people to do just as students to do as part of their civic duty. But if there's somebody at the park who is available to manage the process and to receive the volunteers, or to receive those doing community service, or to receive people who are coming down on assignment from DOC, but always with the same thing in mind. Okay, this is what we have to do. We have a plan. We have to work on, and it doesn't cost much because it's already somewhat paid for, except that the properties would have attendants, and then that would also keep the areas from being used by squatters, because they would be monitoring the use, and they would be the daytime monitoring against crime. So the parks will be policed in that sense. We know who's coming in and out, and when you come in, even if you don't have to pay, At least you are registered. This is who's coming in, on what time, what the day, and what the vehicle license number, what are you bringing in, what are you taking out. And so you can maintain order in the park. And that would actually accomplish it. But you got to have, like you said, our leaders have to have a plan. And no matter, I mean, I've seen this going on for years and years and years, where the Department of Parks and Recreation, its funding goes down, 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 and then GVB says, you know, we have to have our parks do better, and then Parks says, well, give us some money, and then they give it to Parks and Rec, and then they do some things, and it's like the park down in Agana, Sirena Park, or it's the Paseo, but it does, and Ipao Beach, but it doesn't extend out to the other places. Like they mentioned in the editorial, 1,000 Steps, Paget, these are all listed public places that are supposed to be accessible to the public and to our visitors. And they should be, and can be, truly can be, maintained in a way that reflects our pride in our own home by people that are not necessarily the GovGuam employees, but there has to be somebody assigned who would be almost like the park ranger, that would be able to maintain and supervise the workforce that's working, that's coming in to work on these areas. The parks. I was asked once, you know, what kind of if you had your druthers, you know, if you got your way, where would you want to be assigned? If I was to take a job with administration, right, whichever administration, and I always said parks. This island can be just a stunningly beautiful place all the time, with a little bit of elbow grease. And there's plenty of people.
But why isn't our elected leaders doing anything about it? What does it take for us to force our elected leaders? How can we force our elected leaders to do their job, to get off their butt, to do their job? What do we have to do?
I think we got to go to these public hearings and say, would you stop talking about changing this line to that line and making this the headline? Why are you taking up oxygen? Why are you taking up air? You know, to talk about this stuff. Yeah, go ahead and put it in, but why is that important instead of, you know, getting together with your colleagues and coming up with some pressure on sit down with the Director of Parks and Recreation and come up with a plan, and then fill in behind with the budget that's needed and with the authorities that are needed and the coordination that's needed. So it's in the budget for next year. The positions are there, the regulations are there, the procedures are there, and let's go and do what needs to be done. And that's what needs to be done. People have to stop thinking that our elected leaders are doing a good job because of what they're doing. We need for them to do what we want them to do, not what they want to do. That's the difference between politicians and representatives. Would you agree?
Right.
Would you agree with me on that one, Tom?
Yeah, I do agree.
Thank you so much. It's time to take a little break. Did you want to hang on, or do you want to call back in again?
I'll hang on. It only takes a couple of minutes for the news, right?
It's a short break. Okay, hang on, and we'll be right back after this short break here on Tall Tales.
Hi, welcome to this Subway ad for our all-new Ultimate Cheesy Garlic Bread. How would you like it?
I'll take a skeptical grandma.
Set in her ways?
A smidge.
Grandma, try this Ultimate Meatball Marinara made with Ultimate Cheesy Garlic Bread. Melted mozzarella, Parmesan, garlic butter spread. It's just like yours.
Like mine? My grandmother's recipe?
Try it.
You know, my grandmother's cheesy garlic bread was never all that.
Subway, make it what you want. Limited time only at participating restaurants.
Every time I travel, there's something from home that I can't leave without. I take my Docomo Pacific Data to Go to share my stories in Taiwan, check subway routes in Tokyo, be my food guide in Hong Kong, meet new friends in the Philippines, make updates in the States, find my way around Korea, and check out all the cool shows in Singapore. It's the data I have in all the places I love for only $10 a day. Data to Go from Docomo Pacific. Better together.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
Yes, indeed. Bob will be back tomorrow. Yes, in this chair tomorrow afternoon. So do tune in for that. I'm Daryl Taggarty, happy to be with you this afternoon to talk about whatever's on your mind. And I'm sorry, Tom, for some reason, the way that this phone is set up, you've heard Ray talk about this. I pressed the wrong button, because you think that you're pressing a hold button, but actually it's a button that says drop. And I don't really mean to drop you. So call back, Tom. Yeah, we were talking a bit about, well, you talk about volunteers help the island become a better place. Guam is a great place. It's a great place, has great people, wonderful people everywhere. And what's the difference between absolute paradise and mediocrity? And sort of like making excuses and kind of averting your eyes because of the eyesore? Is just paying attention. Paying attention. And not letting people get away with cutting corners. Is that you, Tom?
Yeah.
Oh, welcome back.
There was a senator one time that was talking on the air with the News Talk radio host, and I called in and I spoke to that senator, and I suggested that those households that refuse to pay for trash collection because they claim that they cannot afford it, I don't buy that thing about they cannot afford it. Those are the same households that they can afford to buy cases of beer on their paydays. So why in the hell can't they afford $30 a month for trash collection? Those households that don't have trash collections, they take their trash and they dump it in the jungle. And the mayors don't have the guts to go out there and give them a citation, because they already got the citation booklet. But the mayors are refusing to go out there and try to catch these idiots that's doing that and fight them or something.
Can I offer a perspective on that, Tom? Because this is a really important point, and that is that there are some things that a government has to do, because there's no other private organization, personal, private, community organization that's set up to actually implement things like a police force or highway construction, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, another one is trash. Trash collection can be managed through our taxes. But what has happened is they went on this fee base. And so the taxes that we were paying, which used to handle trash collection and disposal poorly, okay? But what happened is we had the receivership, and the receiver said, this is how much it's going to cost to close order dump. This is how much it's going to cost to build the cells down at Ladson and get the land. And this is how much it's going to be to have trucks and men and women working with the business office also to make this a working system. And now we've got a working system. And we have private collectors who are bringing in the trash from commercial places like apartment buildings and whatnot, right? And then we have the neighborhood individual home collection, which is done by solid waste. And so we have two systems. We have one that's commercially run, where the government or the GSWA does not pick up from properties that are commercially multiple use, right?
Like apartment units.
Yeah, multiple residential units, right? That's left to commercial haulers, and then Guam Solid Waste goes to the individual houses. And then it's by fee. And if you don't pay the fee, There is nothing to compel you to pay the fee. It would be, it could be, it used to be, it should be again, in my opinion only. And yeah, maybe this can be a further discussion. But in my opinion, the taxes you're paying on that building that you're living in should go, a portion of that should go to cover the trash collection. If it's $30 a month for a single-family home with 4 bedrooms, and it's $30 a month for a single-family home with 2 bedrooms, and it's $30 a month for a single-family home with 24 people living in the house. You know, I mean, there's no real way to break it all down. But if you base it on the taxes that are imposed on the land and the value of the land, which is our land taxes, that is supposed to be your base. In some communities, that's also, the land taxes are also the base for your education system. Not so here on Guam. But at some point, the collection of taxes and the use of those taxes should have a direct relationship. It's like, you know, how they've been liquid fuels tax, but then they take some of it and they put it off to education, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes there's like the 911 funds are collected, but they don't do the 911. They accept to pay for salaries for the people who answer the phone 24 hours a day from the fire department. So it takes out some of that appropriation that would be needed for, you know, you look at the GFD appropriation, but actually the GFD is bigger than that because some of it is paid for out of 911 funds. But we don't actually have a system, a physical 911 board and recording and ability to accept the contribution of technology, right? New technology. So it's not an up-to-date system. There's no coordination with an on-base 911 system. It's not a true command, incident command setup. And it should be, it could be. I mean, the other parts of law enforcement and emergency response it's at civil defense, but it's not part of incident command because they have to still set something else up. But this is where it's supposed to be that when you pay your taxes on real estate, the value of that real estate, and you could include all of Guam, all the civilian side of Guam. If you want good...
Doing it is just that our leaders just don't have that kind of imagination to think about that.
Well, they do. They thought about how to slide it off to the side and do something else. And so it's really sleight of hand because we shouldn't be paying monthly fees. Guam Solid Waste should not be based on payments. It should be based on the taxes. And then you make the taxes reflect the value of the services that are specific to that property. And then you will have, that's why you don't have a high tax for undeveloped land. But if you have a house, you have a tax. And if you have $1 million property, you're going to have a higher tax. That's where you're supposed to be recovering this. So you have a 32-unit condo building. You know, what are the taxes for that, right? And that's supposed to go to collecting the trash. And then you just have the money that, okay, this is how much it's going to cost for trash. The cost of the landfill goes up, then you increase the tax because you've got to pay for that service. And they could do it with the same, they could say it's the same amount that you're already paying in fees now. But you won't have to pay those fees anymore because we're going to have the taxes, and then from those taxes, we're going to pay for these services. And they can be hauling, they can get in the high private, I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's one way of forcing those households to have trash collection because they claim that they cannot afford it. I don't buy that. Like I said, I don't buy that. You know, they can afford it. They just don't want to because the government is not forcing them to pay the trash collection.
That's right. And if
it's unfair for all of us that are paying trash collection. A lot of them are getting away with it, and they wind up dumping their trash in the jungle. And now we, the taxpayers, now have to pay probably a private trash collector to go out there and pick up those trash in the jungle.
Well, or it just gets hidden by the foliage, you know, and it doesn't. We don't see it until the typhoon blows and it uncovers it, or you know, they push it further and further back in the jungle and on the side roads, or they dump it out, you know, at the curve, you know, on Route 15, just where nobody can see, and off it goes. You see this all the time, and yes, we pay in the money that's allocated to the mayor's offices for people to go out every day with a truck and pick up trash. But then the mayors are saying, no, you know, the main roads, the numbered roads are not our responsibility. So that's Public Works. And how often does Public Works go out there and police the roads? You would think that, like down in Tumon, you would think that because it's our tourist area, that would be policed every day. They would go and they would make sure that the gutters are clean of cut vegetation. It's kind of congregated around the grates. Any kind of coral or rocks that have fallen off of trucks or have washed off across the sidewalks. That kind of tending is the difference between a picture-perfect setting, not only for our tourists to enjoy, but even for ourselves to enjoy. Just go down and take a walk. Go to the beach and enjoy the beach. The difference between that and just a mediocre, well, you know, this is Guam and what do you expect? Excuses. And that's what our leadership continues to accept, not from the government of Guam and from themselves, that excuses are good enough and they're going to make a living without having to worry too much about these kinds of details because it's somebody else's to do. And it's not. It's really leadership. And
our senators would rather spend their time debating whether to have the word tomorrow with an O at the end or a U at the end. They'd rather waste their time on that than try to figure out what to do about the trash. You know? It just makes me sick to my stomach, some of our leaders nowadays.
Well, there are people who are paid full-time to do nothing but think about these systems for maintaining our community. And one of those is waste disposal of the waste out of your sink and toilet and washing machine, so that we can keep the environment clean. So the sewage water is wastewater is collected and contained and treated and disposed of properly, so we have a clean environment that way. There's another that says the handling of certain kinds of hazardous chemicals or hazardous materials. Those have to be properly tracked and contained professionally, and then disposed of properly. And you have to keep your records. And those laws exist, and that's part of keeping us from getting sickened, or from despoiling parts of our environment or the area that we live in that could make us sick or can just ruin whole areas of the island. And then we have solid waste, which is, you know, now that we have 165,000 people, and let's say we have to plan for another 35,000 coming in, because that was the projection with the military buildup. It's not just the troops coming in, but it's all of the additional business and family members and visitors and whatnot, so that consider it's a community of 200,000. You don't think of just what's good enough for today. You think of what's good enough for the next increment of population, so you begin to build your system. We've got another call, Tom, so can we...
Right,
thank you.
Make sure that since today's your last day,
yeah,
make sure you keep in touch, all right? Be calling in or two.
I will be. Of course. I've been not calling in because I'm on the air. So now I have to go back to calling in. But I guess I will be. But thank you so much, Tom.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, well, we had a caller on line 2, but maybe they'll call back. It's time to take a break, isn't it? Real Joe? Okay, let's take that break right now, and we'll come back in just a few moments with more Tall Tales.
Tired of your wireless prepaid service cutting you off when you reach your limit? Introducing Unlimited for Less with the new $2.50 a day prepaid plan from GTA. Enjoy unlimited local calls, local text, and unlimited data for only $2.50 a day. And now including unlimited calls and texts to the U.S. You can post, call, or text without worrying about reaching your daily limit. Come into any GTA store or visit gta.net for more information.
Attention homeowners, MRE solar energy systems now come with battery storage for zero money down. This means that your home will have power even when the island power isn't available, like during power outages or during and after storms. The inconvenience of not having power for your home is a thing of the past. It's solar with battery storage exclusively by Micronesia Renewable Energy. Don't be left in the dark. Call 632-2613 for a free consultation. MRE, the smarter choice.
Okay, welcome back to Tall Tales. I'm Darrell Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie. He's on vacation, but he is winging his way back here to us right now. So by tomorrow, at this time, you will be enjoying, and I will be enjoying, his perspectives and his voice right here on Tall Tales. So do tune in tomorrow for that. Thanks for tuning in today. We were taking a look at the Dami Ikatni, the Don't Ignore Whale Deaths editorial from the Pacific Daily News, and Volunteers Help the Island Become a Better Place, the Guam Daily Post editorial. And while you heard me say that, tell you that the opinion on whale deaths is really missing the mark because it doesn't go far enough. You know, it says ask. Let's ask for more information. Let's ask for more information. Time's over for asking. Now's the time for telling. And so I can't, in good conscience, give PDN a credit for doing, I'm glad they bring it up. I'm glad it's there. But they only went halfway with this. And there isn't a halfway. There's a process. And the process is you make your statement during the comment period. That comment period's only running for another couple of weeks. It's not time to ask any questions. It's time to say what you got to say. And on the Guam Daily Post editorial, Volunteers Help the Island Become a Better Place. Yes, they do. This editorial doesn't go far enough either because it shouldn't be volunteers. And they don't point this out. Volunteers can be managed, successfully managed, either by nonprofit or by government. But it has to be the function. What the volunteers are doing are functions that must be managed. They don't make that point. But because they are giving a pat on the back for volunteers, and that is real important to continue to recognize the contribution of volunteers, holding this up while we wait for leadership, while we wait for management of our common wealth, our common areas. We're not talking about volunteers going into individual homes and helping out. We're talking about volunteers going to public places to make them look the way they're supposed to be looking, except for the government fell down and couldn't get up. And so I'm going to award the star, the blue star, to the Guam Daily Post. Thank you very much for that. The volunteers are doing what they can do, but what needs to be done is for leadership to get out in front of the volunteers and the people who sort of are organizing the volunteers for one-day items, and get out in front of the problem instead of relying on people having to get up on Saturday morning and go out and take care of the problem for the government of Guam. One of the reasons for discontent with the government of Guam is that we have all these employees, and they all have jobs to do. But with 11,000 employees, you would think that there would be 50 or 60 who are just taking care of our parks. And I'm not talking about getting down there with the bush cutter and cutting it. I'm talking about managing the parks and managing them, the systems that need to be maintained. Can you imagine? Somebody goes to the mayor's office, okay, I have a community service, I need to put out 100 hours. And they're not really sure what to do with them except maybe go out in a pickup truck and go pick up trash back in the edge of the jungle, right? Well, how about if they go over to Parks and Recreation and sign up and say, okay, you're going to be, for the next, 2 weeks, you're going to spend 4 hours a day down at this beach. Oh, doing what? Oh, picking up trash and cutting back the weeds and running a lawnmower and, just make sure you wear shoes, no Zoris, and bring some, bring your lunch. You see what I mean? That's the difference. And it's so close to being done, but it's not being done. So somebody was calling in. Maybe they'll call back. Online, Dave Duenas says, volunteers? Your thoughts on volunteers and if what political party you're affiliated with should be a reason to turn away a volunteer? And then a smiley face. Yeah, Dave and I have a history. That has to go to volunteers. He wants to talk about it publicly. I don't want to talk about it publicly. Because I used to be in charge of volunteers. I love volunteers. You can get a lot done with people who are interested in doing things with you. And what was my responsibility? Making sure the door was open, the air con was on, there was water on, if you needed a sip of water, there was water, and the equipment worked, and you could be trained, and you could be recognized, and you could be, Yeah, my job was to catch them and organize them and put them to use. Yep. I know volunteers. I am one, and I appreciate when they walk in the door. I don't worry about it if they don't, because there's no reason for me to expect them to walk in the door. But when they do, I better have a plan and the time to extend my mission with the assistance of volunteers who are going to themselves get something out of it. We were talking over the past several weeks about educating our youth for the jobs of the future. And on John Oliver's last week tonight, this week, he went into a long thing about automation and about how automation is eliminating a lot of jobs because people are not really trained well, or they're not really interested in working that hard, or that, exacting, repetitious work. And there isn't any reason why in certain occupations a robot can't be developed. Robotics, okay? The young people are developing these robots that can do repetitive tasks. And so there are going to be fewer jobs in the future. So what will the jobs be? Maybe they're not jobs. Maybe they're just pastimes. Especially for people who are on public assistance. Okay, you're on public assistance. This is your assignment. This is your public service. It's almost like a draft. But you have to have the pride of doing a job well and show up on time, and maybe you'll actually be living in a place that's like not North Dakota, but Guam, and you can go and spend your community service maintaining a nature trail. What a beautiful thing to do. It's almost 5 o'clock here. Time for our halftime show on Tall Tales. We'll take this break and we'll enjoy the halftime entertainment and the Fox News and come back with more Tall Tales in about 6 or 7 minutes.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The deadliest twister in 6 years. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. The National Weather Service upgrading the strength of that fierce tornado that struck eastern Alabama Sunday to EF4 with winds of 170 miles an hour. The storm struck with little warning on Sunday, leveling homes, destroying lives.
It sounded just like a train went through our house, and it felt like a long time, but it really wasn't a long time. It was maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And then when it was over, I told them to stay there, and I went and opened the door, and I looked out, and I was just shocked at what I seen.
Liz Hickman grateful that she and her family were spared. 23 people were killed by the storm. Dozens are still missing. The White House calls it disgraceful, abusive, and a fishing expedition. The latest congressional probe of President Trump, but
the president indicating that he will comply with document requests issued by the committee's chairman.
I cooperate all the time with everybody. And you know the beautiful thing? No collusion. It's all a hoax.
The Judiciary Committee sent requests for documents to 81 individuals and entities, including the president's sons. The committee's chairman said it was still too soon to make a decision about whether to impeach the president.
Fox's John Decker. Hillary Clinton will not run for president in 2020. In an interview on News 12 Westchester, she says she will not run for any New York State office either. Mrs. Clinton says, though, she will do everything she can to help Democrats win the White House in 2020. A complaint filed with the Federal Elections Commission charges that New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her chief of staff funneled nearly $1 million in contributions from political action committees to a private firm controlled by the chief of staff. The complaint filed by the Virginia-based National Legal Policy Center, its director says he's never seen a more ambitious operation to circumvent reporting requirements. Spokesman for the Congresswoman says the complaint is politically motivated. This is Fox News.
Save big. Save really big when you bundle up your insurance policies with Nanbo Insurance. Insure your home, auto, motorcycle, or business with Nanbo and enjoy great savings, up to 50%. When it comes to insuring your property, no one knows better than the company with over 50 years of service to the community. Don't compromise the things that matter to you most. Call Nanbo today at 477-9754 or visit nanbo.com for more information. Nanbo Insurance, serving you since 1968.
Every time I travel, there's something from home that I can't leave without. I take my Docomo Pacific Data to Go to share my stories in Taiwan, check subway routes in Tokyo, be my food guide in Hong Kong, meet new friends in the Philippines, make updates in the States, find my way around Korea, and check out all the cool shows in Singapore. It's the data I have in all the places I love for only $10 a day. Data to Go from Docomo Pacific. Better together.
New research into the measles vaccine and autism says there is no link.
New information published in the Annals of Internal Medicine says researchers studied over 650,000 children in Denmark and found no increased risk of autism when kids were given the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. The researchers were looking at kids born between 1999 and 2010. It was in 1998 that former Dr. Andrew Wakefield in Britain first put the theory forward that there was an autism link to the vaccine, but the British Medical Journal says Wakefield falsified facts and that he was working for lawyers hired by parents who wanted to sue companies that produce the vaccine. Jill Nato, Fox News.
The Broward County School Board in Florida meets Wednesday to decide whether to fire its superintendent over a massacre a year ago at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. The board member pushing it is a parent of one of the students killed. Federal officials are investigating whether a 4.5 magnitude earthquake near the Utah-Colorado border on Monday was caused by a well that injects salty water deep underground. The quake struck near a U.S. Bureau of Reclamation facility in western Colorado that collects shallow water and injects it 16,000 feet deep to keep it out of the Colorado River. In Massachusetts, police looking for a thief with expensive taste.
The search is underway for a thief who somehow got into a locked case at a Seekonk, Massachusetts liquor store, stealing a bottle of Remy Martin Louis VIII cognac, which sells for $4,000.
He went around the backside of where someone couldn't see him, a blind spot of some sort, and tucked it into his pants and then made a purchase and left.
Store manager Matthew Eddy says they're offering a $500 reward for information leading to the man's arrest. He faces a felony larceny charge once captured.
Fox's Rich Dennison. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Hi, welcome to this Subway ad for our all-new Ultimate Cheesy Garlic Bread. How would you like it?
I'll take a skeptical grandma.
Set in her ways?
A smidge.
Grandma, try this ultimate meatball marinara made with ultimate cheesy garlic bread. Melted mozzarella, Parmesan, garlic butter spread. It's just like yours.
Like mine? My grandmother's recipe?
Try it.
You know, my grandmother's cheesy garlic bread was never all that.
Subway, make it what you want. Limited time only at participating restaurants.
Attention homeowners, if you don't have a solar energy system on your roof from Micronesia Renewable Energy, now is the time to get one. MRE solar energy systems now come with battery storage for zero money down. This means that your home will have power even when the island power isn't available, like during power outages or during and after storms. The inconvenience of not having power for your home is a thing of the past. Don't be left in the dark. Call 632-2613 for a free consultation. MRE, the smarter choice.
Just as I was beginning to sing. Yeah. Welcome back to Tall Tales. I'm Darrell Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie. He'll be back tomorrow. My gig ends today. This is my last hour. And my pleasure to be with you this afternoon to just kick around some of the ideas that are of importance to us here in our community. You know, these when you're home and you're with your family and with your friends, or you're out at a place enjoying yourself at one or another establishment, or you're shopping, or whatever you're doing in your private life, that is life. When you're on the road, when you're trying to get your trash picked up, when you are, sending your kids to school, when you are considering the, whether fire and police protection are good enough, those are all in our common space. And that's what we are talking about here. We're not talking about your private life. We're talking about your public life. Your life is where all of our lives intersect in the public sphere. The public employees are a particular category in that public sphere because when they go to work, they have a mission. And that mission is in black and white. And their job description is in black and white. And every 4 years, every 2 years, every 4 years, we have elections. So that the people that we elect to represent our interest as members of the public, that our people, we put somebody there to make sure that the public employees and the public funds, our tax money, is used for the priorities for today and tomorrow, and not yesterday or someone else, diverted to private use. And that's the only measure, and that's all we're doing here. We're talking about things that we have in common. I'm not trying to do something personal to you. I'm only talking about stuff that we have in common, in our common area. And so that's what we're talking about here on Tall Tales. And happy to be with you. Love talking about this stuff. Anyone who's known me has known and has heard how I can get off on these subjects at just the drop of a hat. And so that's why I'm here. Back in On January 22nd, Guam Daily Post had an article, an editorial, prosecute officials who misspend public funds. And I put a note, come back to this February, March. We'll talk about this in just a moment. A couple of comments. Gary Schonals on Facebook Live says, we have other issues with Guam Solid Waste Authority. I put a broken home vacuum next to my trash can. They won't take it. My trash bin was full, and I have to have a special sticker just to get one extra bag picked up. If not, they won't take it. And then he continues, the nonsense forces people to find ways of getting rid of stuff or broken items. Yeah, I'm there. In fact, I moved up to my dad's house so I could manage his house, and it's on an acre piece of land, and it's got stuff. Typhoon debris in the jungle and stuff that my brother and sister have taken over there and dropped off, and my nieces and all kinds of stuff there. And, typhoon damaged or what, so I've been taking stuff out and bagging it and stacking up the bags. I've got a pickup truck. And I'm not saying that everyone has to have a pickup truck, but I have a truck just so that I can manage that trash. And I know it's one can a week. And so I put stuff in that can. I just fill that can up every week. And when you do have something that's extra, like a dead vacuum cleaner, it's an appliance, and if it can't fit in a bag, so they can't tell what it is, then it's something that's got to be treated as as metal or, a recyclable or a hazardous material or, like electronics, supposed to be segregated out. But the mixed metal and plastic, I've got a stack of it. Like, you have to remove the bicycle tires from the bicycle. If you have an appliance that's half plastic and half metal and has some glass, it would go in 3 different directions. And they don't go in the recycling bin, only cardboard, plastic, and cardboard, plastic, and aluminum, and steel cans, like food cans. And that's how Guam Solid Waste has this set up now. And what we were talking about before the break was how this should be financed in order to prevent the dumping of waste. Because the job of Guam Solid Waste Authority is to capture all the waste, not to slough some of it off into another part of the public sphere. Welcome to Tall Tales, line 1. Thanks for calling.
Hi.
Hi.
You know what I was reading about how the mayors can give citations for people, dumping and things like that?
Yes.
Was it the mayors that wanted to have that authorities?
They said they couldn't. Back when a year ago they were saying, we don't have any effective tools to discourage people from doing this. We can't give tickets. We don't have any enforcement authority. We have to go back to Guam EPA and call them out and show them the evidence. But then it doesn't hold up in their procedures. So, we're peace officers, so we should be able to ticket. And so then they say, okay, we'll give you the authority to ticket. And then they say, oh, but we have to have the training because it's collection of evidence, because you're going into the judicial system. And so they got that. They got that in early this year. And this is stuff that's been talked about for 18 months. And now that they've got it, they aren't using it. That's...
I know the reason why is because they're elected officials. And if they start giving citations out, they're not going to be on anyone's good side. And that is going to jeopardize them getting elected. So it's a double-edged sword for them.
It's not a double-edged sword. It's like they led us down a blind alley. They have no intention of issuing tickets. They shouldn't have asked for it in the first place, and we shouldn't have given it to them. Because actually,
that's what I'm saying, but
yes.
They're not going to want to do it because that jeopardizes their being elected. Because imagine you want to be elected, you sure don't want no enemies. And if you start really giving citations out for everything from stray dogs to whatever, that they're supposed to be doing, they're not going to be feeling like they're going to be reelected, because some people that they may find are going to be like, oh, spread the word, but which to me, I'm the opposite. I would actually, if they do that, I would elect them because they're doing their job. But, they're scared to do it. That's what I see, because I have not yet seen any one of them go out and give a stray dog citation.
You're absolutely right, and this is something that we could have forecast. We should have known in advance and just dismissed it as a bad idea. Don't expect the mayors to go out and penalize anyone. Don't tell any businesses that they can't put their dumpster in the front yard. Don't tell any resident that they can't block off the government land in front of their house to keep you from parking. And that they don't get into any kind of a difference of opinion with anyone, because it's your constituent base for the next campaign. Well,
exactly. That's how I see it.
The mayors were, once upon a time, they were appointed commissioners. So they were an extension of the governor, because the governor himself was appointed by the federal government or by the naval government. So, or the Spanish government. This existed under the Spanish time. So there was a village level person that was given the authority by the governor to speak for and to coordinate government activities in the village. So if they needed to have people to be conscripted to help build a road or to clear a culvert or to cut wood to build a bridge, that was the person who was responsible for identifying the able-bodied men who were available and to get them over to the job site. And if there was an announcement, then that was the person who had to go around and make the announcement. Or if there was a disaster, that was the person that the governor's staff would call on to find out what was the disaster assessment. And that concept has come forward. But now we're paying them $70,000, and they are like mayors of a town or a city in the States, and they're still responsible for doing the work of public works, picking up dead dogs and keeping traffic flowing around the schools and churches, and putting out coral and showing up at 2 in the morning when the neighbors are yelling at each other. We got to really get back to that mission. What are these people actually supposed to do? And admit it that they're an extension of the governor's office, community affairs, because that's what it's built on. But you're right.
So maybe that's the reason why that it used to be that way, is because, think about it. If I'm a mayor, I don't want people to get on my bad side, so I'm going to pick and choose who I want to give citations to.
Well, that's why they're not handing any out at all. That's what they said. Oh, there's other ways we can handle this. But that's not what they said a year ago.
They're going to cut their own throats if they do that.
Yeah.
Now, if you're making $70,000 a year, I think you could hire 3 people for $70,000 a year and let them run it.
Well, somebody has to supervise. But the thing is that we gave the mayors this really fancy title. They're not commissioners. They're not, what is it called, Al-Qaeda? Not Al-Qaeda, the A-L-Q-U-I-D-A, right? But alcalde, it's a Spanish word. And I think that was the name of the village leader that was appointed by the governor, alcalde. And I think that was the name. My memory, I like reading history. But that's the concept. We need to refine those concepts, return back to the whole reason we have these offices in the first place, and make them more effective. And it's not by giving them ticketing authority. Maybe they just need to be the ones to finger the culprit. But but if they're going to take the side of not enforcing the law, then they are themselves undermining the law. Because there is a law, and there is somebody to enforce it. They're just not, they're obstructing justice.
Right. But during election time, then that becomes like, okay, here You know what I mean?
Well,
I'm just saying.
The AG doesn't want to go and AG doesn't want to take one of the village mayors and take him up on charges and say, you're obstructing justice because you're not giving us the information that we need to enforce these laws. And you know who's out there doing this stuff. You know, he's even not.
I was also, Daryl, what bothers me too is that we haven't come, you know, I used to live in the States and the trash was taxed. So in other words, you were taxed and everybody got their trash picked up.
Right.
As long as you registered for it because it came out of taxpayers' money.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we not doing that here? You know, we have a streetlight fund, we have an abandoned car fund. So why don't we put the, you know, everyone makes trash and put it in, I mean, I hate to say it, but like the water utility. I wouldn't mind paying $3 more a month if it makes sure that everybody has a trash can to throw their trash away. Because not everybody is going to register for $30 a month or whatever it is now to pay for their trash and they'll dump it here and there but everyone makes trash. Everybody, even animals make trash. My dog trash, when he eats his dog food, he makes a trash bag every month.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to say is it should be, everyone should pay for it. And if they have to, then, you know, tax it. And then everyone pays for it one way or another. I know some people that don't work won't pay for it. And the people are going, raise the taxes, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but right now there's only a handful of people that are actually paying for their trash bins and everyone else is not. And they're just dumping it wherever they want to dump it. And then, you know, we have all this, I mean, and then if you had everybody paying, the price would probably go down.
Well, there's actually, as I was mentioning before, it's a hybrid system. So we have a public landfill, okay, publicly funded landfill, and we have publicly funded trash collection for individual homes, so, but not apartments and condos. Those are considered commercial properties, not places of business like hotels and restaurants. Those are all left to private contractors to collect, and then the private contractors are assessed a tipping fee. And so it's a system, it's set up, and it runs. But there is a precise dollar amount that will continue to would continue those same services of landfill maintenance and expansion, the collection of waste, and the management of the whole system, so the trucks are maintained and whatnot. And it can be coming out of taxes because in the existing taxes, it's easy to say, when you pay these taxes on your land and your improvements to land, this amount goes towards your trash. And if it would be exactly the same what we're paying now, $30 a month for a household, and then for a business, depending on the size of the business, whether it's a condo or it would be exactly the same. But we would know where our money's going, and we wouldn't have the island getting trashed because the pickups would already be paid for, and the place would be just cleaned up immediately because there would be no incentive to have to divert trash. And
that's how I feel. I mean,
yes.
I don't mind if they raise taxes and make sure that everybody pays for trash because, like I said, everybody makes trash.
But the only reason we'd have to raise taxes to do this is because the taxes that we're already collecting are going to something that's of much less priority. And that's why that's management.
The taxes, then they need to stop doing that, like the 911.
That's right.
911 doesn't get used by everybody all the time, but it's there when we need it, and people aren't paying a bill of 911 service. You don't see me go in the bank and paying a bill for 911 service. So
it's on your phone bill. It's on every phone bill. It's on every phone bill. It's a line item, and you know your money is going to 911 system. But the people down in Agana, the people who are responsible for running our common system, police, fire, trash collection, roadways, public health, hospital, all this. Those people have got to get down to actually do the work that's required. It's been drifting for so long. There's a lot of work to be done. It's not a time to drift. It's not a time to be incremental. It is a time to look back at the mission and make sure that what we're doing at the time of the budget, when the next year's budget is proposed and when it is heard, we should hear clearly, not incremental thinking, but true setting of direction and priorities and the proposal so that on October 1st, it's going to be like this. Because if they don't do it that way, there is no other mechanism to make it happen. And we're going to have to go, remember this moment, and go back in campaign time next year and come up with a whole new group of people who just might get around to doing it. We thought we had that when we got to the elections last year. If they don't start doing it this year, they're not going to do it next year. They're not going to do it on the eve of the elections, 2 years, a year and a half from now. They're not, because it's election time. They're not going to want to change anything. They have to change it now. And we are the ones who put them in. They have to do it for us. It's not just taxpayers, but also, and not just voters. But there's a reason why we have a government, and that government is supposed to be true to its own mission. And that is to represent our interests and to make sure that our needs and desires are met as much as we want to fund them. They have to be effective at it because they are managing it. Their job is to manage it. We don't get paid to manage it. They get paid to manage it. They get elected to manage it. They get paid to manage it. So they're supposed to be managing it. And they get paid well. They get paid really well to do these jobs. It doesn't take more salaries to get them to do a better job. They just need to take seriously their job. Thank you very much for your call. I really appreciate talking with you this afternoon. Now we have another call. Thank you very much for calling into Tall Tales. Welcome.
Is this me?
Yes, it is you.
Okay. I agree with the lady with the problem of giving someone a job and then or they get elected and then their ability to get reelected is to keep people from keep them happy.
Yeah,
Hold it. I'm trying to turn off my radio.
Well, we didn't elect them to be happy. We elected them to do do a job.
Right. That's right. But they don't. No, I'm saying that they're constituents to keep them happy. But so that's not what I called in about. My pet peeve for 40 years that I've lived here is the fact that Epau Beach, which I think should be our jewel of Guam, has never been really for tourists. Nothing wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the local people having fun down there and drinking beer, but not using the toilets because they're locked or something like that. But really, if GVB wanted to have people happy, they should have something like that where they can go to. And maybe even have vendors that can sell soft drinks and fried something or other, and for food and clean those bathrooms on the weekends. Which I guess the reason they don't do it is because that's overtime, and they got to pay more to have them work on the weekends. But that's when the beach is used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll stop for a minute and see what you think.
Well, we have other occupations in the government of Guam that are not 9 to 5 and Monday through Friday. They include nurses. They include healthcare. They include 911 personnel. They include police. They include fire. And there is no reason that only jobs you're going to create or the only functions you're going to manage are those which you can manage between 8 and 5 Monday through Friday, not including GovGuam holidays. Doing that perverts the mission of government The government was not created to be an employment agency and then stop. It was created to maintain public systems of whatever the functions are that can't be done by private, that we want done, and we're willing to pay the taxes to have them done. But now, a lot of our taxes are going to things that are not, that are the public interest is pretty tenuous. It's not, they're not run efficiently. They don't meet our expectations for basic interface. And that the bathrooms are a perfect example of where it's a public facility that does not meet our own personal standards for something that we would say, this is ours, we're proud of this. This is what we provide, not only for ourselves, but also for our visitors.
Yeah, I heard someone that called in, I think they mentioned that one of the big complaints is that the place is messy and dirty and there's trash and they can't get into the bathrooms and things like that. That's a regular, ongoing complaint. I've heard it for years. I've lived here since 1977. But you know, one of my big disappointment is that pavilion. I've used that pavilion myself in an attempt to have entertainment for children, but it's a very nice pavilion. It has dressing rooms, it has shower facilities, it has toilet facilities. Of course, it's never being used because it's faced the wrong way. It's faced out towards the street instead of towards the. Oh, you're talking
about the concert shell.
Yes, I call it the pavilion, but it's just ridiculous when the Japanese have their fiesta down there. They have to build their own stage because to face the right direction. And if you've gone into that shell or pavilion lately, and I have, it's just a wasteland. I mean, it's dirty, and no one would want to even try and use it as an entertainment place.
Well, you know, I was when I was out at.
Let's turn it around.
Yeah, when I was out, well, it's kind of hard to turn it around, but you know, it would be nice if there was built another stage right up along the roadside where you would have an access road for the roadies to unload equipment, and you know, for the support services behind the stage. And because it's up high and you're looking down over the beach, the sound would go out and down and actually amplify. You don't have to have as much amplification. It's also facing away from the neighbors that are on the back. You know.
But what can we do? It's too late, right?
It's pretty late.
Turn
Yeah.
the thing around.
Yeah.
Have to demolish it and put it up right.
No, leave it there for smaller uses. But you don't see that there's no lighting that's in there. There's no the power facilities are questionable. The breaker boxes, the last I looked, were pretty salt ravaged. Yeah, and so it needs to be managed by, you know, has to be renovated and managed. That's also and put people into it. People.
You think we could use it for smaller? Yeah, you're probably right.
Just let people use it.
You have to fix it up so it can be used. And then right now, of course, there's no seating except the grass.
Yeah, which is okay if you maintain the grass and put the grass and make the grass. It's really hard, but you can. There's a way you can treat the ground so that it becomes a bit fluffier and softer. Mo, do you want to hang on? Got to take a break here and we'll talk some more. Okay, hang on. We'll be right back with more Tall Tales.
Here at APL, our core values give the company its heart and soul. Whether it's connecting your business with our global network through our newly enhanced service or investing our efforts into giving back to the community, APL is committed to serving you. We humbly honor the opportunity to find innovative solutions for you and your business. To learn more about our enhanced service, call 588-4651 or visit www.apl.com/Guam for more details.
At least 8 days in the Alaskan wilderness. Temperatures as cold as -100. The goal, to cover 998 miles from Anchorage to Nome and get there ahead of any of the other 50 entrants. And all you have is 14 dogs to keep you company. I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, business and leadership lessons learned from the Iditarod.
You can find daily transcripts of the Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Back to the game. Yeah, after that seventh-inning stretch, I was able to take a moment here and stretch out a bit. We got Mo on the line. Mo, I got a message on Facebook Live from Rochelle Merrill. Rochelle Merrill says, "You are right, the word is alcalde. Alcaldes had major responsibilities, including citations, but it looks like this is not the case now. The alcalde was the representative of the governor at the village level. And he was the one that the government would in Agana would go to and say, what's going on in your village? Or I need something from your village, you get it for me. And that is what the commissioners were for under the American time. And then under the Gov Guam time, we made them mayors. And so the mayor is like, oh, you know, wearing the black suit with tails, right? You know, it's a mayor of a city. No, it's an alcalde. That's what it's supposed to be, and that's what the function is. And thank you, Rocha. Nice to have you with us this afternoon here on Tall Tales. This is my last half hour. I'm going to be, after this, I'm going to be back to being, back to doing what I was doing before at this time of the day. But it's been a blast being with all of you. And you, Mo. You know, I don't get a chance to see you and talk to you, so here I can.
And I since it is your last half hour, by the way, I thought it was the Surahana. That's what when I came to Guam, I was told that when you have a problem with the government, you should go to the Surahana and they'll at least try to fix it, try to do something for you. And I don't believe they
no.
The word that she was using, I'd never heard of that.
No, it's alcalde is when you go back to the Guam history, that was the representative of the Spanish governor, and then when the U.S. naval government came in, they were commissioners, and they were
Don't you agree that Surahana was pretty much there to solve problems?
No, the Surahana was like. It's the office of the Surahana was created under Guam law as an ombudsman. They said, well, this is the closest to an ombudsman,
yeah.
But a Surahana really is a healer, a medical healer, a traditional medicine. But they used the word, they slid it over. This is a good Mes Chamorro exercise here, you know, between alcalde and the Surahana, because we take these concepts and we try to place the Chamorro words or replace the Spanish words, and we get away from the function. You know, the language is supposed to reflect the function. It's not supposed to be titular. It's not supposed to be a title. It's not supposed to be, you know, like we're creating some kind of aristocracy. But that's how it's kind of come out to be, you know.
If the Surahana was a law or actually created by the legislature, what happened to it?
Well, they never listened to it. You know, people would go to the Surahano's office, and I knew a couple of people who were Surahanos, and they would sit in their office. They had a staff, and they had their office, and people would come in and say, "I'm having a problem with my water bill. I'm having a problem with my with the land boundaries with my neighbor because of the survey markers, And land management's not, they're just being kind of hands off. But the Surahano had no power to compel anyone else in the government of Guam to do anything. It was just a place where you could bring your complaint, and then the Surahano was supposed to package that complaint and refer it to the agency. It's almost like like constituent affairs at the congressman's office.
If it was created by law, then it must have been taken away somehow.
Oh, they just stopped funding it. They just stopped funding. They stopped appointing.
That's how the Guam takes care of things that aren't working to their satisfaction. Anyway, that's what I was told when I came. I said, you know, when you have a problem or a water bill problem, as you mentioned, or something that you couldn't solve yourself, you go to the Surahano. And I thought that was a great way to do it, because I didn't want to go to the legislature and talk to a senator over a water bill.
Yeah, but they, you know, it didn't have teeth. It wasn't like you went to a controller, like the office of the comptroller, because that had real teeth, because it was like an in-house auditor, right, on how well the functions are. Huh?
He had a voice where he could, more than me. I mean, I think if he went into a senator and said, I have a gentleman who's got a problem with his boundary line and his neighbor, and here's the problem, can you help him? He would have a lot stronger voice than me.
But
I believe that's what I thought the Surahano was.
And then the senators set themselves up with a large staff, and on every staff are a couple of people just waiting for constituents to walk in the door asking for their favorite senator to intercede on their behalf with in one way or another. And it may not have any rational relationship at all to have a senator's office involved with this particular problem. But of course, there are people who are paid they draw a GovGuam paycheck, and it is their job to bird dog these issues and make that constituent feel like they're being listened to. And it's a perversion of the system, because yes, in the congressional office, you've got to have, at a district office level, you've got to have constituent caseworkers, so that people who have a problem with the federal government and they can't get communication going, then the congressman's office in D.C. will go back to the agency and say, excuse me, do you have a real good reason why this is a problem? Why is there a problem here? Can you help us understand it? Because the congressman can't tell anyone in the government, United States government executive branch, what to do. But they can ask the right questions. And here, the senatorial staffs are not, some of them are pretty good at this, but there's no way to compel action. And usually they want them to they want to compel action, or maybe something that really is supposed to go to court. It may be a civil case that should be made, and you got to go really to a lawyer. But they don't want to go to a lawyer.
I want to leave with maybe, you know, by the way, I know it sounds like I'm a complainer all the time. I love this place. I've lived here for 40 years. I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
We know that.
To be able to retire here somehow. But here's a true story. I owned the Wendy's restaurants at one time, and we were building one in Barragata, and it had a bull cart trail in front of it.
Yeah.
And it was already cut. So nobody would use that bull cart trail to go anywhere because it had been cut, but it was in front of my store that I was putting in. This is $1 million Wendy's. And so I went to the legislature and said, is there any way you can, because I was told the only way you're going to get rid of a bull cart trail is through the legislature. And so I went to the legislature and I said, I'd like to have that done because we can't build this restaurant on this beautiful piece of property, and people are all excited about Wendy's going in this location, including Ray Gibson. But they wouldn't do it. They kept the bull cart trail there, and so I had to move the entire Wendy's back so many feet. I could still use it as a parking lot, but I couldn't build on top of it. So I think the whole thing cost over $100,000 just to do the architectural drawings again, something like that. So there's a case where our legislature let me down, and I think the whole area of Barragata, because everybody was happy when we got the Wendy's up and running, but and I got a couple more stories like that. But
well, bowl cart trails, Mo. Bowl cart trails are a topic really near and dear to my heart, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Briefly, because there's another call up, but I'll tell you what, bowl cart trails are the we have rights of way now, but those were the byways of my ancestors. These were the ways that the Chamorros, going back, way back, how they went from place to place. It wasn't public land. It was common land. It was where everyone was allowed to be. You're not allowed to be on somebody else's property, but you were allowed to be on that bowl cart trail. And those were the public rights of way. And so as I was hearing you talk about your Wendy's, all I could think about was, well, why did you buy that property? Maybe that property that you bought was less expensive than the piece next to it because of the bowl cart trail. And so you...
Oh, no. That bowl cart trail was actually cut, meaning the owner of the next piece of property, they got rid of it through the legislature.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, if it was already disposable, then, yeah, but they didn't give... It used to be some years back in the 60s and 50s, that the Department of Land Management could sign off on public properties, but that was abused. And so we lost a lot of public property that way. It was just sort of signed off to people who were able to benefit. And so I just, I wish, but there's a different law now. I wish that those had become strand parks for hiking, biking, just ways to go through. But that's a topic for another day. It's too bad that we didn't bring this up earlier, because that's a great topic. Mo, thank you so much.
I'm really hurt by that, but I will get off, and thank you so much, and good luck to you. I know this is your last half hour. Like I said, I don't want to leave you thinking I'm a total complainer. I like our company, our island, and people, my friends in the States, they always wonder why I'm here, and I love the weather.
Well, Mo, we know why you're here, because you've been here for so long, and you're part of the Guam that is built today. And so I'm really happy to have you.
I am an artist and part of the Chamorro Artists Association. I'm one of the few white people that actually was invited into that organization, and I'm very proud of that.
I got to take my wife and kids down to take a look at your art.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mo, for the call. And caller on line 1, how are you? Thanks for calling Tall Tales.
Well, I couldn't resist. I called on your first show. It'd be remiss of me not to at least call on your last show.
Hey, how you doing there, Ken?
I'm doing fine, all things considered.
We don't have all things considered here.
No, yeah, really. I was enjoying your show today. The common good is one of the things I talk about a lot. And, it's something that we as a people, residents of Guam, need to be focusing more on. So I hope the conversations keep going, because that's the only way we get away from the what's in it for me, when we start saying what's in it for us. Because when we start saying what's in it for us, it changes our whole focus, and we start looking beyond ourselves. We start looking at, well, what about, our friends and neighbors and relatives, and what about the residents of our village? How does this affect people who live on Guam?
Making sure
that we need to do.
Making sure that you're not using us as us versus them. And that's one of the drawbacks. Some people say, what's in it for us, but it's sort of tribal, and they only are considering what's good for those of us who are in a position to make the move. But the rest, everybody else has to fend for themselves. That's also something that we have to be vigilant about, because...
Well, that's the group of people I refer to as well-connected political insiders. You know, there's two types of people out there: those who heard the words of John Kennedy correctly, which were, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, and those who turn that around. Ask not what I can do for you, but what you can do for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, going back to the conversation you had earlier in your show about the mayors,
Yeah.
you know, giving them power is a waste of time and effort and money. First, we gave them more money, assuming that with more money would come greater responsibility. Did we see any improvement in the quality of the work we got from the mayor's office? No, we didn't. In fact, we saw it drop.
Yeah.
You know, I remember hearing mayors threatening to stop doing their jobs, you know. So we saw a severe decrease in the quality of work that was done at the village level simply because we had turned our mayors into politicians.
Yeah, we turned the commissioners into mayors and the mayors into
highly paid politicians who
Yes.
got addicted to the money.
Yeah.
And now they're afraid to do anything for fear of, we're coming up on an election cycle, and there are not many jobs on Guam that pay $75,000 a year plus benefits.
I know some of those mayors work really hard because they've got big villages and they've got always people knocking on the door and whatnot. But, you know, that's the job you asked for. You asked to do this job, right? You actually stood out in front of people and went door to door and knocked and said, please, let me do this job for you. And so that's what you get.
Where do we have the biggest and most number of illegal dumps?
Yeah, Dedirojigo.
Villages.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mingila.
So it goes back to those with great power and authority come great responsibility. And if they're not going to take responsibility for exercising the power and authority they asked for and got, then that's time to have a whole different conversation. Because, you know, when we get to the point now where whenever you call the mayor's office, the answer you get most often is, we can't do that. That lies with Guam Power, DPW. You know, almost every time you call a mayor's office, it gets deferred to another agency. And then when things that happen within the village that should be within the purview of the mayor, we don't have the power, we don't have the authority. And then when they get the power and authority, they still won't do it.
Well, you know,
maybe the whole concept of mayors has outlived its usefulness. In today's high-tech communications and downsized government, I think we're going to have to ask the question, is it time to rethink the entire concept of the mayor's office?
It may just be that you have to rename it alcalde. And never mind, say, hey, you're worker bees. You're not supposed to be wearing the tuxedo with the tails. You know, you're supposed to be, you're the worker bee. You're the extension of Public Works. You're the extension of the governor's village, community affairs office, because you are there.
Later this week, we're going to see all the mayors over at the legislature testifying that they need the power to regulate gambling.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
If they won't regulate the trash and illegal dumps in their village, how can we possibly depend on them to regulate a multi-million-dollar cash business that is prone to corruption and fraud?
You think they're going to issue a ticket against somebody who's crossing the line? You know, because
they'll issue tickets to people who don't go to the casino. Because unless people go to the casino, the mayors don't get their cut.
Yeah. Ken, I've got another caller. You know, I mean, and only 7 minutes left. You know, maybe they'll have me back on for, you know. Have me back on.
Good luck, and we'll miss you in the afternoons.
Well, thank you very much, Ken. Good to hear from you today. And line 2, you're on the air with Tall Tales. Welcome.
Hi, Daryl. Most important thing is I wanted to thank you for the great job that you've done while Judge Klitzkie's been gone. I just don't think anyone else on the island could have done it as well as you have, and really thorough.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I would like to.
Oh, you're breaking up. Something bad. Oh, the line dropped. Whatever it is, call back. Sorry. I'm really interested in hearing what you got to say after that. That's quite a lead-in. And want to know what's following it. Let's see if that caller comes back. Here I was going to talk about, yesterday's story about GPA seeking to add efficiency rebate cost to the LEAC. But did you see on page 17 of the PDN today, I think there's also one in the Post, where GPA is asking the PUC for authority to change the reimbursement for its net metering. We need that kind of information. The same level of information that the PUC asks for, we should be getting on the question of the efficiency rebate cost added to the LEAC. And is that you coming back again, caller?
Hey, Darrell. No, it's a different caller.
Oh, that's okay. Welcome. Sure.
Hey, thanks. Great job. Anyway, I just wanted to comment on the two things that you were talking about with the PDN and the Post with the cleaning of our parks. One park that's really been neglected, is the park at Cocos Island, which is part of Parks and Rec's responsibility.
Yes.
Yes.
And
I really hope that somebody out there is listening and get something together, because it's really, really sad that it's not being taken care of. Along with the fact that within Cocos Island itself, the algae that's growing in the back. I mean, they've had to clean up in Epau Beach with this algae, but I've never heard of any cleanups down south, down in Molesso. And that's about it. I really want to.
Well, I know that the algae cleanup in Tumon is
right,
they want the algae cleaned up because it's unsightly for the tourists, but it's caused by, the way I understood it was caused by a lot of freshwater runoff because of the amount of paving and storm drainage facilities in Tumon, so it doesn't have the natural filtration. But the algae itself is natural, and the Manahawk eat that. That's why they come in to eat that seaweed, that particular species of seaweed.
Right, yeah.
But
it's this one that I've seen, the one that they're talking about over in Tumon, and I've seen the one out in Molesso. Now, I'm not any scientist, but they are similar. I mean, they look exactly alike, and this is like a rope-like substance that is just, it's, if you're going back to Cocos, you'll be amazed
rope-like
at what it's doing.
Yeah, no, I'm not familiar with that, but that's interesting. And I would imagine that the people who are most familiar with the marine natural environment would know what's going on with different species coming up, and down in Cocos, that's not. Those are not affected by what's on the land so much, like runoff.
Right, correct. Right, correct. And so, and it's something that I've never seen in my lifetime, and older people than me have said they've never seen it in their lifetime, and they're fishermen. So it's really something, that needs to be looked at and acted upon.
Well,
I believe.
Thanks for bringing that up.
All right, and I just wanted to say, great show. I know this is your last show, and hopefully it's really not your last show.
Well, I am a sub, I'm ready. And they called me. It was pretty short notice, and I was able to fill. And I've never done this before. I've never done talk radio before as a host. But I'm really happy to have the chance to share the time and to have a discussion, public discussion on matters that involve all of us, or should involve all of us. And so thank you for the call. Good to have you with us this afternoon. Absolutely. This is the end of today's show. I'm Darrell Taggarty, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie. He'll be back tomorrow, so do tune in for him tomorrow. Ray Gibson on tomorrow morning at 6 until 10. And I'll come back anytime I'm invited. And in the meantime, I'll be calling in just like you will to Tall Tales and to the Ray Gibson Show here on The Point. Have a good evening, everyone.